Emma Carter had always believed her life was steady, predictable, and safe, the kind of life most people envied in their small Oregon town: a loving husband, a bright teenage son, and a cozy home filled with the smell of fresh coffee in the mornings and the sound of familiar laughter in the evenings. But lately, something had shifted in ways she couldn't ignore. Daniel, her husband, seemed distant, polite but cold, always busy with work calls or distracted by his phone, and his smiles no longer reached his eyes, leaving Emma with an ache she could neither name nor avoid. She had tried to convince herself that it was just stress, that the small gaps between them were normal in long marriages, but a quiet suspicion had been growing like a shadow she could no longer push away. And one evening, after returning from an ordinary day at her teaching job, she noticed Daniel's unusual silence as he set his briefcase down by the door and avoided her gaze. That night, in the dim kitchen light, with only the hum of the refrigerator for company, he admitted the truth calmly, almost politely, as if being gentle could make the words less sharp. He had been seeing someone else, someone outside their family, and he wanted her to know before it went any further. Emma felt the world tilt beneath her feet. She did not scream, did not storm out, and did not cry immediately. She simply nodded, gripping her mug so tightly her knuckles whitened, and listened as the final pieces of her married life fell quietly to the floor. She wandered from room to room, touching objects that now seemed foreign, from the family photos on the wall to the couch where she and Daniel had once shared late-night talks, feeling the distance between them in ways she had never imagined possible. That night, she sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the blank wall, and let the sadness wash over her like a cold wave, realizing that years of love, laughter, and shared memories could vanish not with a bang, but with a whisper, and that the person she had trusted most had chosen a different path. As the darkness of the night pressed against the windows and the house remained silent, Emma felt the crushing weight of betrayal settle deep in her chest, a hollow feeling that left her questioning everything she had known about love, trust, and herself. She thought about Noah, her teenage son, sleeping peacefully in his room, and a spark of worry lit inside her. How would she navigate this heartbreak without letting it destroy the world she and Noah shared? The room felt empty, the air heavy, yet somewhere in that quiet despair, a tiny flicker of resolve began to form. She knew she could not change Daniel's choices, could not undo what had been done, but she could protect her heart and her son, and somehow, even in the depths of pain, she had to find a way to survive. The night stretched endlessly, every shadow a reminder of what had been lost, yet beneath the grief Emma sensed that her life, though broken, was far from over, and that the first steps toward healing would be taken in the silence of this very night. As she gathered strength she did not yet realize she had, ready to face a future that would demand courage, honesty, and the kind of resilience only betrayal can awaken. Noah had always been quiet, a thoughtful boy who noticed things adults often missed, and now he could see the change in his mother Emma more clearly than anyone else. She moved slower, spoke less, and her eyes carried a heaviness that tugged at his heart, and though he didn't yet fully understand what had happened between his parents, he felt the tension in the house like a shadow following him everywhere, making even simple moments feel fragile. One afternoon, unable to bear the distance, he found her sitting alone on the porch, staring blankly at the horizon where the sun painted the sky orange, and without asking, he sat beside her, feeling the weight of her silence and the tension in her shoulders. Finally, in a quiet voice, she shared the truth, not the details of her husband's betrayal, but enough for him to know that the family he had trusted was changing, that the life they had known was shifting in ways beyond their control. Noah listened, sitting close and steady, offering no lecture, no anger, only the calm presence of a son who understood that sometimes words were not enough, and that simply being there was what mattered most. When Emma's tears finally came, he did not turn away or fumble for words. He placed his hand over hers, a small gesture, yet full of comfort and love, whispering that she did not have to face the pain alone, that he was with her, and that together they could survive the storm. In the following days, Noah's support became a quiet force that kept her grounded. He helped with chores, checked in with soft smiles, and reminded her of little joys, like the warmth of a cup of tea or the way sunlight hit the kitchen table, showing her that life, even in heartbreak, still carried moments worth noticing. Emma began to see that her bond with Noah was unbroken and, in fact, stronger than ever, that even though her marriage had fractured, their connection could not be shaken, and that the love between mother and son could provide stability and hope in the midst of chaos. She realized that for the first time in a long while, someone truly saw her, not as a mother, not as a wife, but as a woman who had been hurt and was learning to stand again, and that recognition brought a strange mix of sadness and relief. Yet the nights remained heavy with loneliness, and when she lay in bed after Noah had gone to sleep, the silence of the house reminded her of everything that had been lost, every shared laugh that now felt like a memory, and every promise broken by a betrayal that had changed her world. Still, amidst the grief, she felt a growing determination to survive, to be strong for Noah without losing herself, and to rediscover her own identity beyond the shadow of Daniel's choices. She began small, allowing herself to cry without guilt, to speak her truth without fear, to laugh softly when something reminded her of beauty, and to find comfort in the small rituals of daily life that kept her tethered to hope. Noah, in turn, noticed her tiny victories, her moments of light, and each time he saw her smile, no matter how fleeting, he felt a quiet pride in the way his mother carried herself, teaching him, without words, that courage often came in subtle forms. Together, they began to navigate this new reality, learning that even broken hearts could beat steadily, that love could survive beyond betrayal, and that the strength of a parent-child bond could carry them through nights filled with sadness and mornings bursting with cautious optimism. Emma began to believe that she was not alone, that her pain could be acknowledged without being permanent, and that in Noah's unwavering support, she had discovered a refuge that no betrayal could touch. And though the path ahead was uncertain, filled with questions and moments of doubt, she knew that each day would bring her closer to healing, that her heart could learn to trust again, and that in the quiet companionship of her son, she had found the courage to face a future that, while different from the past, held the promise of hope, love, and the gentle reassurance that no matter what happened, she and Noah would survive together, stronger, braver, and ready to embrace life as it came. After Daniel moved out, Emma's life felt both familiar and strange, like walking through a house she had always known but seeing every room in new light, and every step reminded her that she was learning to exist on her own again, to breathe without the weight of betrayal pressing down on her chest, and to find comfort in routines she had once taken for granted. She returned to her teaching job at the local community college with renewed focus, pouring herself into literature, letting the stories of heartbreak, hope, and resilience speak to her in ways that felt personal, reminding her that life, though often unfair, could also be full of beauty and possibility, and that her own story was far from over. That was when Michael Reynolds, a fellow teacher, began to appear more often in her life, not as a replacement for what had been lost, but as a gentle presence who offered kindness, patience, and understanding, someone whose attention was sincere and whose conversations never pressured her to move faster than she was ready. And slowly, Emma found herself looking forward to their small interactions, sharing favorite books, recommending music, walking together between classes, laughing softly over small jokes that seemed to lift some of the heaviness from her days. Michael's presence reminded her of what it felt like to be seen for who she truly was, beyond the roles of wife or mother, and though she felt guilt at even allowing herself to consider happiness again, she could not deny that being around him brought warmth to her heart and a quiet sense of safety that she had not felt in months, perhaps even years. At home, Noah noticed the subtle change too. He saw her smile more, move with less heaviness, and even laugh softly at times, and when he commented on it one evening, saying, "You seem lighter, Mom," Emma realized that healing did not mean forgetting the past or pretending the pain never happened. It meant embracing the present, accepting the support around her, and allowing herself to feel alive again without shame. Yet just as Emma allowed herself these small comforts, a message from Daniel arrived unexpectedly, dredging up memories she had been learning to let go of, reminding her that closure would not come easily, and testing the fragile peace she had begun to rebuild with Noah's quiet encouragement and Michael's steady presence. The days became a delicate balancing act between protecting her heart, nurturing her bond with Noah, and cautiously exploring a connection with someone who respected her pace. And through it all, Emma realized that the strength she had been discovering was not about ignoring sadness or pretending pain did not exist, but about moving forward with honesty, grace, and the courage to believe in gentle love again. She spent evenings reading to Noah, laughing at his small jokes, helping him with homework, and listening to his thoughts, realizing that their shared experiences and unspoken understanding had formed a foundation more solid than she could have imagined, and that while Daniel had taken a path of betrayal, she had the power to shape a life full of respect, love, and emotional safety for both of them. Michael's presence was never intrusive. He allowed Emma the space to grieve, to heal, and to rediscover joy in her own timing, and in his steady, caring way, he showed her that attraction and connection could coexist with patience and respect, that a new chapter did not have to erase the old, but could build on it with hope. Emma began to see herself in a new light, not just as someone hurt, but as a woman capable of resilience, capable of love again, and capable of creating happiness in ways she had never dared to imagine before. She realized that moving forward did not mean forgetting the lessons of heartbreak, but rather carrying them as reminders of her strength and capacity to survive, and that the support she had from Noah and the kindness she found in Michael's presence gave her a blueprint for a life that could be both safe and full of warmth. And even as uncertainty lingered, and even as Daniel's message cast a shadow she could not immediately dismiss, Emma understood that the choices she made now would define the life she and Noah would continue to share, and that the most important step was to honor her feelings, embrace the love that respected her boundaries, and allow herself to hope again, knowing that the journey of healing was not linear, but that each small step forward, each smile, each quiet moment of connection, was proof that her heart could survive betrayal, rediscover trust, and open slowly, carefully, to a future where she could feel whole once more. The message from Daniel arrived like an unexpected storm, breaking the fragile calm Emma had worked so hard to build, and as she read his words, offering apologies, regret, and pleas to try again, her chest tightened with a mixture of old hurt and cautious distance, reminding her of everything she had endured, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt, every tear shed alone when she thought no one was watching. Yet, this time, she did not feel the panic she had once known. She felt a quiet clarity, a strength born from months of healing, from Noah's unwavering support, and from the gentle, steady presence of Michael, who had never pressured her but had shown her what it meant to be seen, respected, and valued as a woman in her own right. Emma sat at the kitchen table, staring at the glow of her laptop screen, thinking about the life she had lived, the love she had given, and the boundaries she now knew she must protect, not out of anger or spite, but out of self-respect and the need to preserve the peace she had fought to regain. That evening, she called Noah into the living room, and together they talked openly, not with recrimination or bitterness, but with honesty and a quiet understanding that he had grown so much in these past months, learning to see his mother as a human being with feelings, vulnerabilities, and strength. And when he told her, "I just want you happy, Mom," whatever that looks like, Emma felt a wave of relief and love, realizing that her son's maturity and empathy had become her anchor, giving her the courage to make decisions free of fear or guilt. She typed a calm and polite response to Daniel, expressing gratitude for the memories but gently closing the door on that chapter, affirming that her life would continue on a different path, one guided by her own choices, her own healing, and the care she had learned to give herself first. In the days that followed, Emma focused on the quiet joys she had rediscovered, cozy afternoons with Noah, reading books side by side, sharing small jokes and stories from their days, and evening walks where they simply talked about life, the future, and the dreams they still held, knowing that the bond between mother and son was unbreakable, resilient, and filled with mutual love that no betrayal could undo. Michael's presence continued to grow in subtle, meaningful ways. He shared conversations without judgment, offered support without intrusion, and gradually, Emma found herself feeling comfortable as seen, and slowly opening her heart again to the possibility of love. Not a love that demanded she forget the past, but a love that respected her boundaries, celebrated her strength, and allowed her to rebuild trust at her own pace. Autumn arrived with crisp air and falling leaves, and Emma, walking through a local park with Michael beside her, felt a lightness she had not experienced in years, a sense that life could still be beautiful, gentle, and full of warmth despite past heartbreak, and that love, when approached with patience and respect, could coexist with healing and self-respect. She thought about the lessons she had learned, the pain of betrayal, the depth of her own resilience, the power of honesty, and the quiet strength her son had given her, and realized that she no longer needed to chase approval or validation from anyone. That her happiness was something she could create herself, guided by love, courage, and the meaningful connections she chose to nurture. Emma understood that closure was not about erasing the past but accepting it, that moving forward meant letting go of resentment, and that choosing herself, her peace, and her family's emotional safety was not selfish but necessary. As she looked at Michael, who smiled softly without demanding anything, and then at Noah, who brought laughter and light to even the heaviest days, Emma felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and quiet triumph. She had survived betrayal, faced heartbreak with dignity, and allowed herself to be supported, healed, and eventually open to gentle love again. And in that moment, standing between the golden leaves of autumn, Emma realized her life was not defined by the mistakes of the past, but by the strength she had found in herself, the unwavering love she shared with her son, and the careful, nurturing love she was now learning to embrace. And for the first time in a long while, she felt truly whole, ready to step into a future she had chosen with clarity, courage, and an open heart, knowing that life, even after pain, could still offer joy, warmth, and the promise of new beginnings.